My throat is really dry. Anyways, if you're new here, I'm a year-round resident on Mackinac Island, an island located between the upper and lower peninsula of Michigan, only accessible by boat or airplane, and we have no cars in the island. Yes, we have emergency vehicles, but we are not allowed to own vehicles on the island. I have a car off island that I keep in a lot. Anyways, let's talk healthcare. Okay, a lot of those questions are like, what do you do with medical? And that honestly is a big thing to figure out. We do have a clinic on the island, like an urgent care. You can make appointments there. You can just walk in. We also have an emergency room. So, if there was an emergency, we have an ambulance, we have x-rays and a medical facility that could stabilize, assess, do the triage, and then go from there. So super thankful for that. Yes, it makes you more vulnerable when weather is bad, because how can you get off the island? Let's say there is a medical emergency and you need care that the island cannot offer. You either will be airlifted off or sent on the ferry. Yes, people go on the ferry on stretchers. Those are less urgent, but they just need to be transported. And then we also have marine rescue, which is a faster boat that can take you off as well. But if we're in the middle of a blizzard, you can't helicopter or plane through that, like you're stuck. If there's like a big storm and the boats can't run and it's not clear for flying, yeah, you're stuck. So it does, if you have like pretty common frequent medical emergencies that require a higher level of care than what the island can offer, then maybe living here isn't the thing for you. But for most people who have just regular just the average medical things, it still can be a process. So for instance, I have surgery this week. I have to call the surgery place, the hospital. What it's called, guys. I'm a literal doctor, not a medical doctor, but words are hard sometimes. So I have surgery Thursday. Wednesday, I have to call the hospital to see when my surgery date is. So this is the process that I'm going through. This is what's on my mind this week. It's like, okay, if I have to be at the hospital early, then I need to leave the island Wednesday to sleep off island to make sure that I can get to my surgery appointment. But I won't know that date until Wednesday around noon. So I have to block a time in my schedule that if I do need to leave Wednesday, I can get on a boat during that time to get off. And then I still have clients that I'll work in the evening. So I'm navigating that. And then I don't know how long the surgery is going to take. I know approximately how long it's going to take. I don't know how long I'm going to be in recovery, waking up from general anesthesia. And so am I going to get to the last ferry? Because I think the last ferry on Thursday is like 6:30 because we haven't shifted into the winter hours yet. The next day will be. So I'm trying to navigate, okay, if I have surgery at noon, then I will most likely be able to get on that last boat home. If I can't get on that last boat, will I be able to arrange a flight? I think that's still too late for a flight. So I probably won't even be able to get to a flight, which means I'll have to sleep on the island, which means what do I do with my kids? Now, thankfully, we have friends, obviously, and other families on the island. So if that were the case, be like, hey, I can't make it back to the island. Can somebody just pop in and make sure my teenagers are, alive? So like, I'm not worried about that. That's fine. They're old enough that we can make it work, and we have enough connections and people on the island that they'd be okay. But just like navigating all of that. And then like the biggest thing for me is like, I'm coming out of surgery. I'm going to be uncomfortable and I have to drive an hour. So I'm having my surgery in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, and that's about an hour away, 45, 50 minutes, depending on where you go in the Sioux. And so after my surgery, I've got to drive an hour to the parking lot, get a shuttle to the ferry, and then ride the ferry home. And then I'm probably just going to walk home. I'm not going to ride my bike. I could take a taxi if I really needed to. But I think I'll just walk home. We'll see. I don't know. So it's all those details. Like surgery is a big deal, regardless. So adding the complexities of all these extra steps are one of those things where I'm like, I'm really thankful for a great community here in Mackinac Island that if I needed something, I know that people would show up and they'd be helpful, because that's what we do for each other. We show up for each other and we help each other. I don't think I'm going to need an electric scooter type thing, like where those sit chairs. There are people on the island that have them because they've needed them. And we literally have a resident page. We're like, okay, does anybody have one I can borrow by any chance? And like, we do like the swap and we care for each other. So, medical things are more complicated on the island, and that's something that I'm adjusting to. I've lived in situations before where medical access was very limited. So compared to like Western China, when I lived in a mountain in a village in a mud brick hut, like compared to that, it's not a big deal. But compared to like living on the mainland in a big city in the United States, it's more complicated. So that may be something to consider, as like, your own personal medical needs, but also like thinking for myself, like when I get into my 80s and 90s, because I decided I'm living till I'm 105. That's just what I decided. And I'm going to be healthy and I'm going to be walking, and maybe a little crazy with cats, but I'm totally okay with that. But anyways, as I get into my 80s and 90s, I'm not sure if I'll be able to live the island life, but since I'm only 41, I'm going to enjoy it. So anyways, yeah, surgery Thursday. Wish me luck.